So something exciting has happened. Well, kind of exciting for me anyways, but here, let me show you. Well, I got a new saddle. It's not brand new, but it's new to me. I got it off of Ranch World ads. Of course, it's a single rig saddle. Looks to be kind of like a 3B Vasilia. It's a slick fork made by, I believe that's pronounced White, Will White, Raymond, California. These conchos were made by the original owner, and something really interesting about it, or something kind of cool, I guess, is that the stirrup leathers are what's called full double stirrup leathers, which is something they used to do a lot, back in the olden days, I guess. But it's something I didn't think saddle makers even did anymore. But this is one continuous piece of leather that goes, goes clear over to the other side and comes back, and ends here. And the reason I think they used to be able to do that a lot was because they used to have great big steers that they would bring to market that, might be 2 to 5 years old. So they had great big hides they had access to. But I just didn't even know anybody did that anymore. I don't know much about them as far as how to adjust them. So it's going to take a little doing. I have another old saddle for my son that has the same thing. And I messed with them once. And if you get into it and don't know what you're doing, I think you can kind of end up with some goofy stirrups put back on there. But I'm going to go ahead and make this saddle my own. I'm going to put some stirrups with tapaderos on it, take this mule hide off and put on some Latigo hide, put some saddle pockets on it, and kind of do all the stuff to make it mine. And then hopefully I don't have to adjust the stirrups, but if I do, we'll tackle that. So here we go. So while I was cleaning the saddle, I thought maybe I'd show you a little something. From what I read, or what I can remember, I think this saddle was made in 2015, but it wasn't rode very much. And the way you can tell is there really isn't any wear marks here on the seat where somebody sat. I can't see the outline of their leg coming down here. And then another thing that happens a lot, I'll show you on this saddle, when you ride, you'll get, I don't know if you can see it, you get these dark marks rubbed on a saddle right here. Can't see it on that one at all, but right there gets quite a bit darker from your leg or your boot. And on this saddle, I don't see any of those marks at all on here, so it looks pretty new. And then another thing that happens is this outside stirrup leather will rub on here quite a bit, and it's rubbed a little bit, but not a whole lot. It's got a little flat spot right here where I think it was probably sitting in a tack room or in a trailer. The mule hide, it did have some rope burns burned into it, but that's not a really good indicator of how much a saddle's been used, because mule hide wears out pretty quick and can look pretty rough after just one branding. And then here, I can tell a rope has come across here, dragging a calf or two or something, but it hasn't scuffed this leather up much. And when you drag a bunch of calves, this will eventually become pretty scuffed up. But so I think I got away with a pretty nice saddle that's almost brand new. So, but yeah, I'm gonna keep working on it. So I'm all done oiling this up and cleaning it up. It didn't really need it, but I just decided to anyway. But another thing I like about this saddle is it came with this horsehair cinch already on it. And the thing I like about it is somebody already took the tongue out of it, because they know how you're supposed to cinch up a single rig saddle with a Mustanger's knot or an organ knot that you've seen me do before. So that's pretty cool. Now I'm going to get started on the horn wrap and putting the stirrups on. To put my stirrups on, I think I'm just going to have to take this nut off of here and pull the bolt out, because I don't want to dive into undoing these stirrup leathers and trying to put them back together. So that's the next step. So here's the stirrups and tapaderos I'm going to put on here. And I got these slanted or crooked stirrups, or whatever you call them. I've been riding these for years. And if you ever ride and when you're all done, your ankles are just really sore, you should try these out. They were a game changer for me. But the reason it has this rope down here on the bottom is I'm kind of a cheapskate. And when I ordered these stirrups, there was ones that had leather down here, and there was these that had nothing. It was just wood, and these were cheaper. So I thought, oh, I can buy the cheaper ones, and then I'll take apart a rope and wrap one of the strands around there. I thought it was a real great idea. But then my wife pointed out that in the wintertime, that looks like a really great spot for ice and snow and mud to build up. So might not have been so great, but we'll see. She's probably right. And it'll probably end up coming off there, but I'll try it for a while. So another thing I like about this saddle is this blood knot or slit knot or whatever you want to call it was really easy to get undone. Sometimes saddle makers, they make this cut here so small, and these are so tight, it's just, you almost tear these saddle strings up getting them apart, but that's really nice too. Here's a better look at one of the conchos. The previous owner made them himself. Nothing too fancy, but I've never had fancy silver conchos on a saddle before, so that's cool. Alright, so I got my tapaderos on, got my buffalo hide saddle pockets on. Now I'm going to put a Latigo horn wrap on. Now if you order one of these as like a strap, I think I get these from Tandy Leather. I got them several years ago. You need to be able to split leather down because this strap would be too thick to use as a horn wrap. It would have probably even been too thick to use as a Latigo for your cinch. So get yourself a leather splitter or borrow one or figure out how to split this down a little thinner. And you also want to bevel the edges a little bit. And you can do that with a pocket knife. It's not too tricky, but I'm going to go dunk this in the horse tank for a second, and then we'll get her wrapped on there. All right, so I went and dunked my Latigo in the tank for just a minute. You don't want it soaking wet, just kind of damp so there's a little bit of stretch and softened up a little bit. So then I put a little slit in the end of it here so it'll fit over the saddle horn with the rest of it going out the front of the saddle horn. And then I'm going to pull it tight and go under here and come up out here and start wrapping. So before I start, this is what it looks like. One of the reasons I like to do this is because I can kind of place this over here, and when I'm holding an animal with a rope, my rope will rub on this more than it will this, so this will kind of protect this. So kind of place that wherever you think your rope's going to come off of there at. I'm also going to be using this hitching post supply trick, where when I wrap my saddle horn and I'm all done, I can put the end of it through here and pull it through here because this will be too tight, and I'll have to stick a screwdriver or something in there and weasel the tail down. But with this, I can just stick it between these two pieces of saddle string and pull it out. We'll give that a whirl. So now that I've got it all wrapped, I put my tip between these two pieces of saddle string. I'm trying to hold it tight with my other hand, but I wanted to show how this works. And I'm just going to pull these saddle strings, and the tip's going to come right along with it. And there's no fishing or having to lift this piece up with a screwdriver or anything, and there you go. And I'll show you how I finish her off. Now I've got it wrapped on there and kind of like the way it looks. You want to make sure you have this far enough down against your fork here that your rope, when you dally, won't pinch under there, because then it can get kind of stuck and end up in a bind. And you want it far enough up on here that you don't burn up the leather under here, and a little bit up here. You don't really worry about burning this up too much, but you might a little bit. So there we go. But I'm going to put two slits in this that'll line up with these, and then I'll take this concho off and run those strings through here and put the concho on and put the straps back together, and that'll hold this tail right here out of the way. All right, so I got that put on there, and that keeps this tail kind of in its place and out of the way, and makes everything look nice and neat. So get the horn wrap all done and on to the next step. So as I go to put my rawhide riata on here, there's another thing I don't understand that saddle makers do, is they make these rope straps a country mile long. And I don't know why. I only need 2 or 3 wraps on here maybe to hold my rope, but they always seem to make them where you got to wrap it 5 or 6 times. But this one has some more fancy engraved stuff on it, and I'm sure the original owner made fancy concho there. This buckle's even got fancy engraving on it, so I'll keep it. All right, she's ready to rock and roll. Got my saddle pockets on, my slanted stirrups with my tapaderos. Put a nice paracord piggin string I made on there. Got my rawhide riata on there with my 7 wraps with my rope strap. So this thing is ready to rock and roll.